Okay, and I'm happy to share with you a body of work that I've developed over the last 35 years, evidence-based, and I'll be sharing some of that research with you. So, welcome to Engaging Hands, Hearts, and Minds, Transforming Writing Instruction for Multilingual Learners. I'd like to begin by stating up front that I believe human beings are hardwired to think in pictures, in any language. Evidence dates back to our earliest recorded history. Early cave paintings remind us that human beings are hardwired to think not only in pictures, but also in picture stories. So during this session, I'll be sharing with you how you can transform literacy learning with your students by honoring these simple truths. Picturing writing, fostering literacy through art, is an innovative approach to literacy learning that uses simple crayon resist-based art techniques. If you're not familiar with that term, crayon resist is basically a crayon drawing with a watercolor wash. So it uses crayon resist art techniques and quality picture books to teach the art of writing. Image making within the writing process uses collage made from hand-painted papers to literally construct meaning, shape by shape, page by page. These pictures first approaches teach writing that is evidence-based, proven effective for a wide range of learners, including your multilingual learners. And I'll be sharing some of that evidence with you later on. Using either process, students create their own carefully crafted picture books tied to their grade level English language arts standards or language arts standards, whatever the language, and content area curriculum. Students are so proud of the books they've created. They learn to read their own and each other's books with fluency. Picturing writing and image making foster a deep appreciation for picture books as a genre and a love of reading, writing, and of course, of art. Students come to see themselves as published artists and writers, and they turn to quality picture books as mentor texts. They learn to read like a writer and see like an artist. Picturing writing and image making are facilitated within what I call Artists Writers Workshop, which follows these 4 basic steps: a literature share followed by discussion, modeling an art or writing process, a work session, and a group share. Just to clarify, Artist Writers Workshop is the umbrella under which picturing writing, the crayon resist process, and image making, the collage process, are facilitated. Artist Writers Workshop addresses all 4 domains of your standards, and it does so authentically through students creating their own picture books. So that is, again, ties with that idea of authentic learning. Artist Writers Workshop is facilitated in 2 complementary strands: an art strand, which focuses on the language of pictures, and a writing strand, which focuses on the language of words. The art strand always, and I repeat, always precedes the writing strand, and for good reason. Not only does painting first captivate reluctant writers and motivate them to get their ideas down on paper in writing, but also students learn how to read their picture to access detail and description. We'll be practicing that a little later on. Artist Writers Workshop treats words and pictures as complementary, parallel, and equal languages for learning. What does that mean? Equal languages for learning means eliminating the hidden bias within our schools that favors the verbal learner. Parallel languages for learning means recognizing the parallel function between the language of pictures and the language of words to make meaning. Students learn how to address the key elements of story in both pictures and words. This makes literary elements such as setting, character, problem, solution, visual, and concrete. Complementary languages for learning means that students learn how to create pictures that tell a story and write words that paint pictures in the reader's mind. The marriage of words and pictures gives students fuller power of expression, especially important for students who struggle with written language. Let's travel to the Canadian Arctic, where I had the opportunity to work in a 5th grade classroom and in a combination 1-2 classroom to see how picturing writing impacted these students and their writing. Pay attention to the language they use as they write to their pictures. What? Hold on, that slipped.
Today, students across Nunavut are capturing the natural beauty of the land through their art and their writing.
The bright sun is rising in the sky. The sky is brightening up. The soft clouds are catching sunlight. It is sunrise.
The stars are lighting up the night. The tall mountains are going to sleep. The reflecting water is colorful. It is night.
Night blows dark stripes across the sky as the full moon slips behind the violet clouds. Silently, the moon fades away as darkness spills over the land.
Neon streamers flicker in the vast sky. Solid ice on the bay whispers good night to the sky spirits.
Dawn yawns silently in its bed as one lonely Inukshuk watches night transform into dawn.
Dawn spills in while a crescent moon shimmers over the frigid bay. Mountains wake up as clouds glide across the painted sky.
Ice blocks vanish slowly in the melting bay. A cold shivering Inukshuk peers at the shining moon and whispers good morning to dawn.
Students across Nunavut are discovering a unique art-based approach to writing known as picturing writing, fostering literacy through art. Developed by Beth Olshansky at the University of New Hampshire, picturing writing uses quality picture books and simple crayon resist art techniques to teach writing and foster a love of reading. It offers students a hands-on visual approach to literacy learning designed to engage every learner. As students create their own quality picture books, they gain skill and confidence as artists and writers.
I think I'm a really good artist. I've been practicing for a long time. When I first started, I wasn't very good at writing, but now I can do it pretty much all by myself.
Throughout the picturing writing process, words and pictures are treated as equal languages for learning. Students who are naturally more visual or more kinesthetic become engaged in the writing process.
I wish I could do picturing writing every day.
Central to the picturing writing process, students paint before they write. This allows them to develop their ideas in pictures first. As students write to their paintings, They come to understand why painting first helps them with their writing.
When I write to my pictures, it's easier because I get some ideas in my picture. The picture has a lot of details which helps me write, so I can write about most detailed things.
When I paint first, it helped me so I can see every detail that's there so I can write about it.
Students also discover that when they find just the right words, something magical happens.
When I write to my picture, I use many active verbs to make my picture move.
When I find the right words, my picture comes alive.
So what did Jeremy mean when he said, when I find the right words, my picture comes alive?
Today, students...
Excuse me. There we go. I'd like to introduce a concept which may be new called transmediation. And then we'll have an interactive experience together. So trans, of course, means across, as in transatlantic. And mediation has to do with coming to an agreement between two or more parties. Transmediation is defined as the act of recasting or translating meaning from one sign system to another. What's a sign system? Well, any form of communication. It could be art, writing, mathematics, music, whatever. Transmediation has been shown to deepen students' thinking, generate new ideas, create opportunities for reflective thinking. And if you're moving from pictures to words, it fosters vocabulary development. And I'm going to share with you right now how that happens. It's a powerful phenomenon. So this is a little crayon resist painting, just crayon and watercolors that I created. And now as the artist, I need to decide, well, what's the central thing? What's the most important thing in the picture? To me, I'm going to start with the moon. This is a picture about the time of day, the early evening, and the moon just seems like it calls my attention. So on my piece of paper, and if you have paper in front of you handy, you can join in this activity. I'm going to put the word moon, draw a line under it, and then ask, what is the moon doing? Now I'd like you all to unmute. We're not going to raise hands or anything. We're just going to call out because I'd like to move this activity along quickly. So who can give me a word? What is the moon doing?
Climbing.
Climbing. Say that again.
Floating.
Floating, sinking. Okay, so we have to decide, is the moon rising or falling? It could be either, so that's fine. So we've got already some great, what I call silver dollar words. Let's keep going. What else is the moon
Reflecting
doing?
in the waters.
Reflecting, beautiful.
Looking, losing weight and putting on weight.
So going back to the word looking.
To me, it seems it's smiling.
So notice how we've moved into personification. If the moon was like a person, what would it be doing? If the moon had eyes, someone said looking. If the moon had eyes like a person, what would it be watching?
Admiring herself in the water.
Okay, so how poetic is that? Admiring, what else might she be watching?
What is going on?
Yes, watching what is going on, absolutely. If the moon had ears like a person, what might she be listening to? What sounds might you hear?
Night silence.
Listening to the silence, beautiful.
Sound of a splash.
Listening to the splashing of the sea, perhaps against the rocks.
Listening to Beethoven symphonies.
Say that again, please.
Listening to the symphonies of Beth.
Ah, wonderful. Listening to the symphonies. Beautiful.
Or maybe listening to the compliments from the clouds that surround him.
Now we're starting to build a relationship, right? You're noticing what's around the moon. Wonderful. So look at all the wonderful ideas we've got from looking at just one tiny part of one small picture. But let's go on. After, as a teacher, after I've satisfied with the word bank that I would have been writing all these down to create a word bank for my students, we'll go on to the clouds. What are the clouds doing? Let's imagine it's a breezy evening.
Dancing.
Dancing, beautiful. What else are the clouds doing?
Floating the moon.
Moving.
Floating.
Floating, wonderful, floating across the sky. So notice how we're starting to create that sense of movement. What are the clouds doing?
Wearing her best gowns, evening gowns.
Okay, wonderful. I think Lucia's got a little story growing there. All right. And we have
dancing around the moon.
Dancing around the moon. So again, we have that sense of relationship between the clouds and the moon is starting to deepen. We could decide if the clouds are moving slowly, perhaps they're creeping across the sky, or maybe it's a very windy evening and they are sailing or sweeping across the sky. So as the writer, you get to decide the mood, the feeling, the sounds, all the sensory information. Let's go on to the water, but instead of just naming it water, I'm going to be specific. Let's call it the ocean. What is the ocean doing? Here's a little hint. What could we
Dreaming.
say? Pardon me, say that again.
Dreaming.
Dreaming.
And can I say about the clouds? It seems to me that they are trying to get the form or shape of some animals. The lower ones seems for me like a dragon.
Oh, okay. Well, we could say creeping like a dragon across the sky for the clouds. Wonderful. They do remind me of animals too. We could say slithering across the sky. Okay, on to the ocean. So what is the ocean doing?
Talking to the moon and the clouds.
Talking to the moon and the clouds. What else?
Resting before the next day.
Say that again, please.
Resting before the following day.
Oh, resting. Okay, very nice. Perhaps if my arm is the shore, perhaps they could be gently lapping on the shore. So here's an example of my teaching my English learners some new vocabulary. Or here's another, what I call a kinesthetic hint. What is the ocean doing?
It's painting or drawing a picture because the white thing looks like a face of the person looking left.
Oh boy, now you're really reading into it. So you can see we can keep going deeper and deeper. Rocks. Now the rocks are a little tricky, or the rocky shore, because it's still, it's not moving. But when we introduce personification, we can still get some interesting language. So if the rocks were like a person, what would they be? And they had eyes like a person, what would they be watching?
Standing strong throughout the storm.
Ooh, okay. Thank you. What else? What are the rocks or the rocky shore doing? What sounds might they be listening to?
The breathing of the ocean.
Ah, powerful. The breathing of the ocean. Okay, nice. And again, we could decide if it's a breezy night, we might hear certain kinds of sounds other than a still night, etc. Now, Oh, here's the thing. I want to back up. See on this picture, if you peer in really closely, right around where my arrow is, there's a little dot. I accidentally dropped 1 grain of salt on my wet watercolor, and it produced that. The salt ate away the paint. I call that a happy accident. And now I have a lighthouse in the distance. So I could say, what is the lighthouse doing? So what would a lighthouse be doing?
Keeping watch.
Keeping watch. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Keeping watch. Anything else?
Showing the way for the people.
Absolutely. Showing the way, guiding people's way home.
Protecting.
It's a shining beacon of hope for all those souls who lost their hope and lost their way.
Thank you. Very beautiful. So you can see we could go on and on. Let me ask you a key question. When I first put this picture up, you probably said, oh, that's a nice picture. But now, what did you notice? How did your relationship to this picture change through this brainstorming process? What did you experience?
Understanding the picture deeper.
Okay, so create a deeper meaning. Absolutely. Anything else?
It became more personal.
It became more personal. Yes.
It lit up the amygdala inside of a creative imagination and made the whole process creative and very, very much customized and personalized. Okay, which was the core trigger for creative developments.
Okay, so it became much more personal too. Did anyone feel kind of drawn into that picture as if you were there? Like, this is how we lean into the picture to experience all this sensory detail, whether we're, experiencing the clouds drifting across the sky or the moon shimmering on the bay or whatever. It brought us into the picture. Any other reflections on the experience?
I think I enter the picture and appear in the middle of it, and I have a relationship with everything that is in the picture.
Okay, so you feel personally very connected to that picture. And imagine how your students feel. I mean, this is a picture you didn't even paint, but imagine you are a student, you painted your own picture. You thought it was okay, or maybe you're not sure, but when you start to go deep into the picture through this process, all of a sudden you connected to it. You discover new meanings, new depth, new creativity. And in the meantime, many people, I don't know if you experience this or not, sometimes students will shout out, "The picture came alive, the picture came alive," through use of all that movement. And of course, on the meantime, you've got a wonderful word bank that you've created with your students. So that is what we call a community word bank, that are words that your students are able to access to write about their own paintings, assuming you were all painting about the ocean. Transmediation. Did we check all the boxes here? Did it deepen your thinking? I think so. Did it generate new ideas? I see heads nodding. Create opportunities for reflective thinking, foster vocabulary development. So I'm seeing lots of nodding. It's a powerful experience, yet we do not use this typically in the classroom, right? We're usually so focused on the words. We got to get the work done. We got to get the words. And meanwhile, the students don't have this rich opportunity to engage their creativity. Now, there's another part to the process. What happens when you bring pictures and words together? I call it the magic trick. So I want you to stare at this picture and don't blink. This is what I tell the kids. Sit perfectly still, don't make any noise, and don't blink. So they all get very serious, and I'm going to read a passage to you using some of those descriptive ideas, language, and let's see what happens. Everyone ready? Stare at the picture. The full moon rises silently above the rippling sea, illuminating billowy clouds as they drift across the early evening sky. Moonlight shimmers on the bay, creating a path of light that stretches toward the rocky shore. Craggy rocks glisten in the moonlight as they listen to the waves lap against their sculpted forms. On the other side of the bay, a lighthouse flashes, guiding travelers on their way home. So what did you notice as you were staring at the picture and I read to you? What happened?
Triggers the imagination. We start imagining things.
Okay, triggered your imagination. How so? Can you give me an example?
I start dreaming about going to the sea. I want to see this picture in real life.
Yeah. When you said triggering your imagination, can you give me an example of something that perhaps came more alive for you?
We can easily visualize the beacon, sending lights and guiding. Maybe the ships, which are finding the way to the beacon. And the people on board a ship, whatever.
Did
anyone? All the objects started moving. The clouds were moving, the moon was moving, the water was moving, and even the rocks seemed to have started moving.
Okay. How many people saw something move when I raise your hand when I read to you? Okay. That is the magic trick. Everyone's wonderful. I'm seeing lots of electronic hands here. So we can think about how that happened. But first, I have one other part I wanted to ask you. Did anyone notice what your eyes did as I read through my passage? What happened to your eyes?
We're following the objects
exactly
we're talking about.
So when I write about the moon, your eyes lock onto the moon. When I talk about the stars, the clouds, your eyes follow the clouds. So as an artist/writer, I get to make the picture. I get to read my own meaning into the picture. And then I get to decide, what are the most important objects? How do I want to invite the reader into the picture? So I'm choosing to do that first through the moon. How do I want to move the eye through the image? So you're giving your students fuller power of expression by giving them two languages to work with. Pictures first, because of course, if your pictures weren't first, would you ever had come up with that much descriptive language? No, absolutely not. So I want to bring you into a second grade classroom where these students are just observing the magic trick for the very first time. This is just a 1-minute video.
Young artists and writers learn that when you bring words and pictures together, something magical happens.
One warm, breezy spring evening,
Watch
Mama
the boy in the
Raccoon was
blue.
searching for crayfish and tadpoles in a nearby creek. As she crept slowly down a fallen tree, she sensed danger.
I saw the picture moving. I saw the blade move. I saw the letter move. Do it again, do it again.
Transmediation, or the recasting of meaning from one sign system to another, serves to deepen students' thinking, allowing them to make new connections and discover new meanings.
We imaginated the clouds and stuff moving. It's
Transmediation also increases opportunities for reflective thinking.
And when you told the story, it made our minds think of a movie that we were watching that made the clouds and everything move.
Those kids experience very much what you experienced, and you can see how excited they became.
Young artists.
Now you can seize the moment of excitement. Who wouldn't want to learn how to make their pictures come alive? Who doesn't want to learn the magic trick? So here, as a teacher, you can put up your descriptive passage and then talk to kids. Well, how did we get the picture to come alive? How did we get things to move? And hopefully after some discussion, your students will realize that it was the verbs that created that illusion of movement, those active verbs. Because remember, I asked you, what is the blank doing? What is the moon doing? What are the clouds doing? You naturally responded with verbs. Now, while you're at it, you can talk about the importance of other parts of speech. So, for instance, when you're talking about nouns, instead of memorizing, as I did, a noun is a person, place, or thing, which meant nothing to me, we can realize that the nouns help us picture the objects we are writing about. And what about the adjectives? Of course, the adjectives paint an even clearer picture in our mind as they describe the nouns. The adverbs, well, they add meaning to the verbs by describing just how each verb is behaving. Are those clouds drifting slowly? Are they moving quickly? And then, of course, prepositional phrases that tell us where. Each part of speech has a very specific purpose and function as we work as writers to paint pictures in the reader's mind. Let's hear from a few 3rd and 5th graders, some of them multilingual learners, some of them native English speakers, who have experienced the magic of the process, the experience of transmediation and simultaneous transmediation. Whoop.
So if you use good words, it creates pictures in your brain and it makes it look like it's actually moving.
When I write to my picture, I use many active verbs to make my picture move.
When I find the right words, my picture comes alive.
When I read my words, you could probably see everything moving, and it was realistic because Lydia was reading it to me and I was like, whoa.
You can imagine just how excited these kids are. They've made their pictures. They know there's nothing magic inherently about their painting or their collage, but all of a sudden they've learned how to make those objects come alive. This process has the potential to transform how we think about and teach writing to our students, giving us new tools for engaging our wide range of learners while teaching essential literacy skills. Transmediation and simultaneous transmediation are at the heart of the power of this multimodal approach. Bringing together words and pictures empowers young writers and older ones too, Students are excited to try their hand at making magic, making their picture come alive. The process, as you might imagine, can be done with students of all ages, K through 12, and adults as well. Here's an example of a brainstorming list I created on video, actually on Zoom, with a first grade classroom during COVID. And you can see the students helped pick out all the important things in the picture. And then I had the same question: what is the blank doing? What is the sun doing? What are the seagulls doing? Etc. So not bad for January of first grade. And of course, then they had a wonderful word bank to write from, because for this particular lesson, we were all doing ocean pictures. So here's a couple pieces of the first grade writing. Notice these have, well, these are emergent writers, so they start with sentence frames. We'll see if they made any magic. So stare at this picture. The sun is rising over the ocean. Can you see it? The clouds are drifting. It is sunrise. Did we get those things to move? The moon is shining in the sky. The stars are dancing. It is night. You can feel this student's love of her painting as she tries to capture its meaning in words. So that's just an example of how you apply this process to even our youngest emergent readers and writers. I did have an opportunity to interview some of the first graders. Christopher told me, "I just don't know what happens. Whenever I go to Artist Writers Workshop, all sorts of good stuff just pops into my mind." That is a first grade definition of transmediation. Stephen shared, "In Artist Writers Workshop, I learned how to paint pictures in Mrs. Rafferty's mind," and how exciting that was. And she, of course, was his teacher. Laura tells us, "It's a wonderful life in Artist Writers Workshop, especially for those kids who otherwise struggle." Picturing writing and image making are easily integrated across the content areas in science and in social studies. Here's some examples of some crayon resist picturing writing books tied to the elementary curriculum. Here's some image making collage books tied to their curriculum. Picturing writing and image making can be used to teach a variety of genres. Here's a few examples of some favorite elementary units. Our foundational time of day unit teaches the basics of picturing writing and Artist Writers Workshop, while teaching students to read their paintings to access detail and description, just like you did. We're also doing a tremendous amount of vocabulary building, just like you did. The result is that you also have to teach students about word choice. The time of day unit also comes with an informational text component, so students get to write about their understanding of why we have night and day, so tying that science piece in. So students can write these time of day books about any different region, where all over the world, wherever they're from, and the books can be written in English, in one's native language, or also possible to create bilingual books. We have a weather poetry unit that teaches a variety of poetic forms, writing to paintings. And here's an example of a kindergarten painting and writing to weather. If you don't teach weather, no worries. Those same poetic forms can be applied to many different curriculum topics using what I call fact-based poetry. Notice that we're teaching, in addition to the crayon resist, some supplemental art techniques, tissue clouds. Over here you see saran wrap placed on wet watercolor to create kind of a craggy look to rocks. Here we've got some tissue dabbing to make smoke, or this little boy is texturing, adding some temper to show the waves on the ocean. So many different little art techniques that just make children, allow them to feel successful. We have life cycle units as well. I mean, you can apply this to so many content areas. We have specific research-based units, but we're doing research in a way that is inclusive to English learners and a wide range of other students. So we begin with visual research. So instead of asking students to immediately start reading your text, we're going to ask them read the pictures in the text. Of course, these need to be fact-based images as well. So they're jotting down facts they learn from the pictures first before they read the text. And here's an example. We're doing our research in two colors. One, the facts we get from the picture. One color, the facts we get from the words. Of course, then students understand when they make their own pictures, they're going to embed facts into those pictures as well. And of course, sketching is a form of visual research as well. We're building community word banks because if we need to write about our animals, we want to have those good silver dollar words, as I call them. And then for this particular project, we're creating guessing trifolds. Who am I guessing trifolds? Where students are applying facts into their pictures, hints, actually clues, into their pictures and into their written text. The same project can be done with collage, the image making process. Like many of our units, this entire process has been recorded and made into instructional videos. We have narrative units, so writing story, using quality picture books as mentor texts, studying not only how authors create lead sentences, etc., but also how do artists introduce the setting. So for every story element, we're addressing it first in pictures and then in words. But before we do that, in order to curb what I call the and then stories, I don't know if you've seen any of these, and then, typical of young writers, we're using storyboards, so visual prompts as well. The accordion folder also embodies the notion that pictures and words are treated as equal, parallel, and complementary languages. And note, we have specially designed brainstorming sheets for each story element: setting, character, problem, solution. So students are very clear, pictures first, about what those literary elements are. Students' carefully crafted picture books cause quite a stir when they are published. Not only are students incredibly proud, but also highly motivated to practice reading their own and each other's books over and over again. Students are excited to be published artists and writers, and their books become favorite reading materials in the classroom. Added to all these layers of scaffolding remains the fact that pictures serve as a universal language, making this a more inclusive approach than a words-only writing program. Speaking of universal language, let's hear from a few English learners.
Picture writing helped me because it helped me learn how to spell a lot of beautiful words, and I know how to say sentences and a lot of animals.
I like picture writing because it helped me speak English and helped me learn English and helped me make my pictures better.
I like picture writing because it makes me to learn and makes me happy.
So there's just a little glimpse there. Whoop. We had the opportunity to host an exchange student from Ukraine many years ago, and she was in the school where I was developing the image making collage model, and she made this lovely book. And on her author page, she wrote, "I can see my ideas in my pictures. When I see the pictures, I know how to make the words." And we hear that many from many students all over, no matter where they're from. Picturing writing and image making use visual and verbal modalities, activating more areas of the brain, creating new neural pathways, and giving students fuller access to their full potential. This isn't just a nice theory. Neuroscientists have documented actual physiological changes in the brain that occur when human beings engage in art. And when I say engage in art, this doesn't mean you have to be good at it. They claim you just have to do it. 20 minutes a day can reduce cortisol levels, thus reducing stress, help with focus, concentration, attention, and actually build new neural pathways in the brain. There is evidence now that engaging in art and the arts can improve student achievement. Picturing writing is aligned with many of our current day best practices and key recommendations within our English language arts standards. We have over 3 decades of history as a proven practice. I'll be just sharing a few nibbles of that. So image making, the collage process, which was the first I developed, was validated by the U.S. Department of Education as an innovative and effective literacy model in 1993. In 1995, I developed Picturing Writing, the crayon resist-based process. Our first school-wide adoption began in the year 2000, which allowed us to begin collecting meaningful school-wide data on the impact of picturing writing and image making on reading and writing scores. After 2 years of implementation, our Title I students, Title I would be kids who read below the national average, and our special education students outscored the national average of all students in reading. I need to repeat that. The students who typically scored below average in reading, so your struggling readers and your special education students outscored the national average, not of their peers, but of all students. It's hard to believe, but it's true. And it wasn't a fluke because we tracked these scores for 10 years. So here in 1990 was before we started the school-wide adoption. More than half the students, 56%, were scoring below average. At the end of the grant period 3 years later, only 18% were scoring below average. And by the 10-year mark, only 10% were scoring below average. And look, 53% were scoring in the high range. We also looked at writing scores. So these are state tests our students have to take every year. Our Title I students, again, the below average students, typically would score below the state average of all students as they did beforehand. But then after adopting picturing writing, the first year, the Title I students scored above the state average of all students year after year after year. And that is impressive. We had good findings for our special education students as well. We also received a federal grant to do a large a study in Manchester, New Hampshire, which is a national refugee resettlement community, where we hired an independent research company to come in and develop a research study that involved 1,500 students, grades 1 through 4. And these two of the schools had EL magnet classrooms, so English learner self-contained classrooms for newcomers, grades 1 through 5. This is just a snapshot. A lot of this is on our website, but I just want to point out after the first year, here we have spring writing scores of all students. The treatment in green, comparison, demographically matched comparison in red. Next to that are at-risk students who scored below benchmark in reading. Here we have our special education students. Here are English learners who were in mainstream classrooms. Here are English learners in the newcomer class. All these at-risk groups kept pretty good pace with all students, and even this newcomer group by far outscored all students in the demographically matched comparison group. We did this study 3 years in a row with only minor variations. We showed we had very similar statistically significant effects. But of course, the educators, the principals, administrators, they just wanted to know, what about the state tests? And indeed, our students did score well on the state tests compared to their demographically matched comparison schools. The most exciting finding was that in the one school where the principal really insisted the teachers have the time to adopt the model with fidelity, our boys scored equally as high as our girls. That didn't happen in the comparison group. It didn't happen anywhere in the district of 14 elementary schools. It didn't happen anywhere in the state. And we know from our national report card that boys tend to score about 1.5 years behind girls typically in writing. So we've learned from Michael Gurian, a social scientist who investigated gender differences in the brain, that boys tend to have more cortical area dedicated to visual and spatial reasoning. Girls tend to have more in the verbal area. So when you give boys consistent, structured visual tools afforded to them by picturing, writing, and image making, they are able to close that long-standing achievement gap. And I might add, they're fully engaged and having fun while they're doing it. So again, this is a long-standing achievement gap, national achievement gap. We were able to show very promising effects. There's more on our website, picturingwriting.org, under effectiveness. A few takeaways as we wrap up here. I hope by now it's clear why Pictures First is so important in enabling students to access that rich language from their pictures. Remember what Sammy said, when I paint first, it helps me so I can see every detail that's there so I can write about it. And I think with your own little experience, you understand that. Another key point, materials matter. This picture on the left was done with just crayons. Here's crayon resist, crayon and watercolor. This is the type of bare bones writing you get from a first grader who's writing to this picture. Here's what I call more inspired writing from a first grader that goes to this picture. You can certainly feel this student's connection and love of their painting. Multiple layers of scaffolding. So in addition to Pictures First, materials matter, we have multiple scaffolding. That includes additional supports for narrative writing, such as immersing students in quality literature. And of course, we have the storyboards, the accordion folders, and all that. And all supported by the predictable Artist Writers Workshop classroom routine. Picturing, writing, and image making level the playing field, ensuring the success of a wide range of learners. The picturing process plays a critical role in literacy learning. This underlines our entire approach because effective writers use words to paint pictures in the reader's mind. And in order to comprehend, readers must be able to create pictures in their minds as they read. The daily habits of the artist strengthen visualization, the very skill necessary to becoming strong readers and writers. This is a powerful backdoor into literacy learning for our newcomers or for others who struggle with written language. I think we do a great disservice to our students when we insist that art is only a special that belongs, once a week and 45 minutes in the art room and is not part of our literacy education. Picturing, writing, and image making engage a wide range of learners in authentic, joyful learning while closing those long-standing achievement gaps, especially for those who struggle.
I've been using picturing writing for 2 years, a little over 2 years now, and it's worked really well for me. I started off, of course, with the time of day. That is the foundation for sure, and they need to know all the skills and the techniques and the elements that come with time of day. When they've completed their time of day book, it's like, okay, now I take a really good look at my curriculum. I've done basically all of my social studies and my science with my picturing writing, both last year and this year, and the students love it. Picturing writing is a lot of fun. My students, they've become really, really good readers and writers. They spend a lot of time writing, reading, doing their best. People looking at my students' work would really think that I have an exceptional class. They've become exceptional. However, when I first started with them, there were a lot of challenges. About a third of my class is special needs. I have children who word discipline problems. Self-esteem has come a long, long way. I had children who were so shy, they didn't talk, much less be reading. I had children who had no literacy skills. And this is just a couple of years. And that's the whole point with picturing writing. It allows every child to be successful. It has given them self-esteem, it has given them confidence, and it has given them literacy skills. It has allowed them to be able to read and write in such a very short time. They have become exceptional. I'm very, very proud of them. I can't believe how far they've come. When I look at the pride that they show on their face, that says it all. They love it.
So that's just a little reflection from a teacher. I just want to say what I've shared in an hour is really just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more, but I'm pleased to have this opportunity to give you a quick overview. We definitely, beside offering hands-on workshops, we have teacher manuals, we have mentor texts, we have instructional videos, all to support teachers. And we do have a website. If you check out picturingwriting.org, you'll notice we have a drop-down menu for picturing writing with various units and various little video clips, and also the same for image making. So I want to thank you so much for what I say, joining us in our quiet revolution to transform literacy education to be more inclusive for your wide range of learners. And here's my contact information if you care to get in touch with me. But I appreciate so much this opportunity to share with you.
Well, dear Beth, thank you very much for that quiet revolution. We are so much tired of loud and noisy revolutions. So this quiet and very, very peaceful revolution is something that I'm sure taps into the feelings and emotions of each of us. So thank you very much for, well, in the morning we had a couple of sessions presented by those people who were inspired by your short talk during the project.
Oh, wow.
Well, and they presented what they have learned and how they implement picturing writing. Well, now you have just umbrellaed all the ideas, and this was very insightful, very memorable, and very thought-provoking. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I hope to add a little bit of hope and lightness to you under these dire circumstances. So my heart is with all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. I will send you the link of the video so you can see what the students presented earlier today.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you, Lucia, for this invitation.
Yeah,
My privilege. It's always wonderful to have you.
Beth, could you please make me a host again? Because so otherwise everyone will disappear. And thank you while we are waiting. Thank you again for these first-hand techniques, strategies that you shared with us, for this expertise of yours. It was so we appreciated it a lot. The very moment when you shared it with us during our course, as well as so we cannot even express our admiration today. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You are now host.
The chat box is booming with a lot of thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, just that was very much relaxing and very much thought-provoking at the same time.